Welcome back to another edition of the podcast, and it's our Gameweek 22 National League predictions. We came back, we went off again because of the FA Trophy and FA Cup, and now we are back again to preview a full fixture list in the National League. It feels like a very long time since we were both sat here previewing a full fixture list in the National League. So, Paul, firstly, how are you doing tonight?
Yeah, very good, Luke. Very good. Yeah, well, I didn't realise until I sat down to do the predictions how many games there were, because as you said, last few weeks has been quite curtailed, hasn't it? So, yeah, I'm doing okay. Looking forward to getting back to National League action after a couple of weeks of cup football. So, hopefully this Christmas period will start to sort of gear up to see who's going to go on for a charge in January, who's looking to get relegated, etc. And looking at it, Luke, and I know we're going to talk about a couple of teams tonight, but those that are sneaking back into playoffs, those that are dropping away, it's like we always say, it constantly changes, doesn't it? These clubs and teams are, anyone's capable of beating anybody else, and I can't see that changing over the next few weeks.
Yeah, I can't either. And yeah, tonight is a fair amount of topics that we're going to discuss. Another managerial change in the division, and of course it's Ebbsfleet. They'll be looking to appoint the third manager of the season if they go down the route of appointing another manager. That'll be a topic we'll speak in a lot of detail tonight. We'll also be discussing Woking, and is Doyle getting more criticism than he deserves overall, considering the financial issues that have been going on at Woking. I'm also going to speak a bit about Hartlepool once again tonight. Of course, you look at them now, they're 3 points off the playoffs. Could they be inside the playoffs by the end of 2024? That's going to be the question. And then finally, we'll be speaking about if National League TV has had a positive or negative effect on the National League as a whole, before predicting all the National League games for Game Week 22 in the Vanarama National League. Before we do any of that, we'll come to the live chat, and it might link into some of the topics that we discussed tonight. So it's probably a good place to start. Also, please remember to like and subscribe. If you want to become a channel member as well, it's just £2.99 a month. You will get to use custom emojis for your club in the live chat, and also bonus interviews that we do and episodes. You will also get early access to those in the future, and we're looking to implement more perks as well as we progress further into having memberships. So yeah, we do appreciate everyone that has become a member as well. Also, please remember to check out our sponsors, cards accepted. There'll be a link in the description for you to do that. No contracts on monthly fees. You get 50% off your order if you use the link in the description. That's enough of the admin side. We'll have a look at what everyone is saying then tonight. First person in tonight is Lee, who of course is a Wrexham fan, still tunes in on a regular basis. Your evening, lads. I believe he must be in. Is that Egypt's flag at the moment? I think he must be in Egypt at the moment. So you'll be enjoying your time over there. And then we've had Caroline in, who of course is a channel member, Paul.
Yes, Aldershot. Good evening. Sorry, I'm going to miss this one. I will watch it tomorrow. Oh, lucky you, Caroline, on your commute or while you're there sitting at home doing whatever you're doing. But yeah, hopefully you enjoy the show.
We've got another Aldershot fan with us. Hello, thank you, Luke, for giving me your thoughts for Saturday's game against us. No problem. Of course, I believe you on Twitter and Instagram. If any Aldershot fans are out there, or National League supporters, please check out his page as well. We've got Colin with us as well, Paul.
This is my favourite podcast on the National League content. Cheers, Colin. Do you know, have you paid him to say that, Luke? Or?
Yeah, I did actually before, and I gave him a £5. No, actually, I said free channel membership if he did that, to be honest. But no, Ben's come and said evening as well. Welcome into the stream, Ben. And then we've also got Reese with us who said hello. And then Reese has said, who does everyone support? Do you want to go first, Paul, and tell him?
Yeah, I follow Wealdstone down here in northwest London, and we're division, 5th season now in National League, haven't we? So I'm kind of used to it now.
Yeah, I'm a Halifax fan myself, and we've been in here for a very long time. We have to be one of the longest serving clubs in this division now. I know he dropped out of it into the north and then back up, but it'd be nice one day to get back into the Football League, and that'd be the only reason that we change the podcast up at any point. So hopefully it is for that case, and not the fact that we end up getting relegated. But hopefully it'll be the first one, and we'll hopefully get up before we end up dropping down. And then we've also had Chris, who's coming, Paul?
Hello, boys. Latics versus Stones. Well, up for that one. Yeah, I think Oldham owe us at Boundary Park. We seem to do quite well there in the last few seasons. I think Oldham will fare better than they probably have in the past few seasons on Saturday. So, yeah, they're going to be very confident they can beat Wealdstone, and I wouldn't be surprised.
Chris has said, don't mention the FA Trophy, please. I'm happy with that, to be honest. We got knocked out of it, and obviously different people have different opinions on the competition, and that's valid overall. For me personally, and it's more because Halifax have probably been spoiled in this competition to have 2 Wembley trips and win both of them. Now that's not really a priority of mine. So I wasn't particularly fussed to see us get knocked out of the FA Trophy. As for like a Wealdstone, who I believe got knocked out, and other clubs like your Aldershot, it genuinely does obviously mean a lot. So it's each to their own if you know enjoy the competition or not. I personally don't think for the likes of Halifax and Oldham, with both of their defeats, you can read too much into it, to be honest, overall. I don't think it's going to have a detrimental effect on the league form at all. So for me personally, I'm not too disappointed that we're out of the competition now. For you, Paul, bit of a disappointment though, wasn't it, for you? Of course, you kind of dream of that Wembley trip with Wealdstone.
Yeah, we do. And last time at Wembley was 1985 when they did actually win the FA Trophy and the sort of non-league double. They won what was the National League, then the Gola League. So they haven't been back since, and it's up the road from us now, in just up from Rice, so a couple of tube stops away. And it would just be really nice for the club to get to that level. And every year we sort of think it could happen, but it was a tough draw for us to get Aldershot away. We beat them earlier in the season. We beat them early in the season 2-0. So I think we went into it with a little bit of confidence, but by all accounts, I wasn't there. That by all accounts, they didn't play particularly well, and Aldershot capitalised on that, and that's fair enough. And they're the sort of team that will probably go deep into the competition because they're not likely to get relegated. They're not likely to get promoted. So they can concentrate on maybe getting the Wembley appearance. And, I think Wealdstone should get to be a club that does that, concentrates on Wembley. But, I don't think it's a bad thing they're not in the competition. Similar to you, Luke, Wealdstone are struggling at the bottom of the tables. They need to concentrate on their league form like Halifax do to try and get in the playoffs. So it's a double-edged sword, isn't it? In one sense, it's probably a good thing, but on the other side, it's always nice to have that dream of playing at Wembley, and especially as local as we are to it.
You mentioned there about Aldershot probably not being in a relegation battle this season, yet they're only 2 points above the drop zone at the moment, and every week it feels like they're getting closer and closer towards that drop zone. I think for Aldershot fans at the moment, they're probably a little bit nervous, thinking that they could get dragged into this relegation battle, because for me, I look at Aldershot overall, and you compare them to last season, I have to say it's clear they're not as strong side. You look at the forward line compared to this season, it's clearly not as good or as strong, I should say. And the issue, I think, for Aldershot this season is they're not being able to score the same amount of goals that they were last season. And the way they play, it feels like they're sticking with that type of system as last season. And for me personally, and I think for most fans, you're looking at Aldershot and it is crying out for them to change the system a little bit, because this season they're on track to concede less goals than the previous year. I think overall, you look at the defenders they've got, and I think defensively they're a pretty strong side. Going forwards, where I feel they're weak, however, the way they're setting up is to try outscore the opposition, and I just don't think this season they've got the forward line to do that. I look at the squad overall, and I think for Aldershot it's been quite an underwhelming season so far, and I can't really see them progressing much further up the table at all. To be brutally honest about them, I don't know what your thoughts are on Aldershot. Are you surprised with them this season? Did you expect them to do better? Or
would I say surprised? Possibly, because of how well they did last year. But then the caveat to that, Luke, is exactly what you said. They've not replaced the goals they had, in Tolaj and what was young lad called Stokes. Yeah, in terms of those two, the presence that they showed at that top end of the pitch was a real difference to them. And they were a great find by the club to pick them out of academy football essentially in lower league football, and they both moved on to the Football League now. So to replace them was always going to be really, really difficult because they were always susceptible to letting goals in, weren't they? Even last year, you know, there was some good entertaining games with Aldershot. So not being able to replace those goals is going to be really difficult if you do still concede goals at the other end, and they've seemed to show that. I mean, I don't think they're going to go down. Hopefully, you know, Tommy Widrington being unwell and not being at the football club and managing the side doesn't disrupt them too much. You know, I guess on behalf of all non-league fans, we sort of wish him well and hope for the best that he's able to recover enough to return to what he obviously loves doing. So, you know, hopefully we'll see him back soon. But in the meantime, how much that will derail them, I don't know. You know, they had a good win against us on Saturday in the trophy, so that's going to give them a bit of confidence. So, yeah, I think probably the next few games is going to be really important, like I said at the beginning, for any club just to see going into the new year where they might sit and whether they have to push on, consolidate, or try and cling on for dear life.
Just echoing what you said there, of course, we both wish Tommy Widrington the best recovery and hope he's well soon and back doing what he loves. For me, I know he's got quite a lot of criticism this season at Aldershot, and I think a lot of that will be down to him not changing, you know, the formation and the style that they like to play. But I think he's a manager for me that clearly wants to entertain the fans. I think you look at it, Aldershot at the moment, and I think for me, you look at the recruitment, and I think that's what it's down to why they're in the position they're in, is because they didn't recruit particularly well in the summer, in my opinion, particularly going forward. You look at players last season that were fringe players, such as, you know, your Gandors, who I think will learn out, and your Barretts, who didn't particularly get into the team last season, and then now they're expected to step up because of players that have left the club. And for me, overall, I just don't think they're as strong as what they were last season at all, particularly going forward. I think Aldershot will be fine overall. Defensively, I think that they're probably too strong to really get sucked into it. I think I had them down for 14th at the start of the season, and I'm actually going to stick with that at the moment. I think honestly, without getting too ahead of myself, I think that's probably going to be one of the better predictions that I do this season, is putting Aldershot in mid-table. It's too early, though, to say that, to be honest, isn't it? But I'm pretty confident with that one that it'll be around 13th, 14th, 15th, something like that. But we've also had Christopher, who's come in tonight, who I believe is a Gateshead fan, said, "Evening, gents, welcome to the stream." And then we've also had Colin, who I believe is also a Gateshead fan, Paul.
Can Hartlepool make the playoffs? Yes, I think they can, but I personally think they will just fall short. I know Hartlepool was one of the teams you wanted to speak about, Luke, because they've seemed to have got their act together since Lenny Lawrence has come back and Darren Sarle's gone. And they're slowly crawling their way back up into that mid-table position, aren't they? And not on a bad run of form. I know they lost the last game, but you know, they're looking like they could sort of push into that playoff place.
I did, but to be fair, without blowing my own trumpet, when they've been struggling, I've said all along, I do genuinely feel they have the capabilities to make a push. And yes, they haven't particularly achieved that yet where they're actually inside the playoffs. But for me, I'm going to make a bit of a statement. I genuinely feel that by the end of 2024, I think Hartlepool will be sat in 7th place for me. I look at the squad overall, and I think there's a lot of quality players in that side. Mancini, Disaruwe, Gary Medine. You know, the list goes on for them. And they're a club for me that I don't think are afraid to strengthen either as we get into the later months. So I think Hartlepool, for me, I'd actually back them still to finish inside the playoffs this season. And they've certainly started getting their act together in the last couple of weeks or so. Do you think, or do you think maybe I'm getting a bit ahead of myself to really put them in the equation of a side?
No, not really. I mean, apologies to Hartlepool fans. As they lost their last game. That's actually the first of the run of 5 they've had, which they lost, and they've not lost in the last 4. So, no, not really, Luke. I mean, from 12th place, they got 29 points, and Sutton are on 32. You know, in 7th. So it's very tight. You know, right the way down to Eastleigh in 13th. Really, if you look at it, and only because Eastleigh have got a game in hand over a lot of the other teams. I think what you know Hartlepool need to start doing is getting that run of consistency where they're not losing games where they were earlier in the season, and that will eat them up the table. Again, it's fairly obvious it's dependent on what happens above them, but the likes of Altrincham, Solihull, Yeovil, you know, as you can see from their results, they're winning and losing. They're not hugely consistent. So I think, if Hartlepool can show a bit more of that consistency rather than what they were sort of going through early in the season, then I think they can get in the playoffs. Because you're right, it's the stature of the club. They were here a couple of years ago as sort of went up as champions, 3 years ago, absolutely almost walked the league, didn't they? So they know exactly what it takes to go back up. Lenny Lawrence will definitely know what it takes to go back up, and that seems like a sensible option now for them. I think people were a little bit sceptical of it, weren't they, at his age and the fact he hadn't managed for a little bit, and he sort of comes and goes as a caretaker manager there, etc. So they're doing okay, and I think they probably will. But the other team to look at just quickly is, and I thought about this when I looked at it earlier, not only Hartley, you look at Sutton, gone into 7th place, and I know I personally put them go straight back up. Hadn't really considered, there might be a change of squad like they have with Steve Morrison, but because they've shown that again, all down to that run of form that they've had, all of a sudden 3 wins and a draw in the last 5, and they're back into 7th, where they were sort of in that mid-table position, almost as late as us speaking just a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, to be fair, like you've mentioned there, Sutton, it did feel like they were falling off, and they were going to finish mid-table this season, and again, they've managed to gain a bit of momentum and find themselves back inside the playoff spots now. 4 clean sheets in a row as well for Sutton at the moment, a strong point away at Halifax as well during midweek. But I look at those sides in and around the playoffs, and I look at Hartlepool compared to those, and you look at your Altrinchams, you look at your Suttons, your Solihuls, your Yeovils, and even your Halifaxes, and I look at Hartlepool's squad on paper, and I think it's a lot stronger than all of those squads overall. I don't particularly feel that there's any side out of them apart from Hartlepool that I think stand out. Maybe Solihull, but consistency's been a significant issue for them, and of course it has been Hartlepool, but it does feel like they've got their act together now and they're gaining a bit of momentum. Whereas for Solihull, it's like they get a win and then they end up losing 2 games.
Yeah, it's a really tough one to predict out there because they are swapping places on a regular basis. Yeovil are the team that seem to have just dropped off a little bit. Look at their form compared to others in and around them. They're the ones that have dropped off. 3 losses out of 5, didn't do very well in the trophy against Weymouth at the weekend. So they're going to want to try and get back to winning ways, and they need a reaction, especially for their fans on Saturday. But I think the two that need to take advantage in that top 7 is Oldham and Rochdale, having 2 games in hand over Gateshead and Barnet, and 1 game in hand over Forest Green. Is they can really push on to that 40-point mark and consolidate in that top 4 or 5, and possibly overtake some of those other teams depending on results. So, they've got to take advantage of the fact it's easy to have points on board, but games in hand is sometimes quite crucial as well.
Yeah, it certainly is. And you look at Oldham at the moment, sat in 5th place. If they win the 2 games in hand, they'll actually be 1 point off top. And a lot of people, I think a lot of people are, but there's also a section that still feel that don't really look at Oldham as a side that's inside the title race. It's not something on social media I've really seen where fans are saying, Oldham, they're going to go on to win the title. And they have to be considered to join those 3 sides in York, Barnet and Forest Green to be involved in the title race this season, because if they win their games in hand, then they're going to be right in the thick of it, aren't they? Of course, Gateshead above them, but have played 2 more games than them as well. Certainly going to be interesting to look at Oldham. As for Forest Green as well, they've got a game in hand. If they win the game in hand, they'll go back to top. They're a side that not many people are talking about on social media. So that they're a side as well that I don't think are going into the radar, because a lot of people are backing them to win the title, but there's not as much talk about them as the likes of York and your Barnets as well. Mr. Luke's come in and said, "Hello, gents. Hopefully you lads are well. No game for us at the weekend, and sending my best wishes to Lewis Turner of Farsley Celtic in his recovery from that terrible heart attack he's suffered." We wish him the very best. Also saying that there's no game for Gateshead at the weekend. I thought they were playing Woking, unless it's been postponed in the last hour or so. And then we've got Reece who's come in, Paul.
Southend look like they could be signing a striker for Saturday, sounding like it's Charlie Kendall. Yeah, I did read that Mayo was in for another striker. Was Charlie Kendall, lad that was at QPR? I think he was. It might be an American chap from memory. He sort of, I wouldn't say he's a young lad, but yeah, I don't know too much about him. But it's strange because they've got Bippel. Is it Bippel who's doing particularly well at the moment? But they clearly need something to help him along. But yeah, listen, Southend, after what happened to them last year, you know, they're in 14th. I don't think they're in any particular trouble. They're not going to go down, but it's how much they can push on towards the top and sort of trouble those playoff places and try and get in and around that, you know, going into the new year.
I was pretty impressed with Southend when they came to Halifax, to be fair. They're probably one of the better sides that I've seen come to the Shea. I think this game v Hartlepool at the weekend is going to be a big match for either club. I think if Hartlepool win, they'll probably have the momentum and feel that they can go on and get inside those playoff spots. As for Southend, they win. Then I think we'll be considering them as a side that could put a bit of a case together to sit inside the playoffs as well at the end of the season. We've also had Chris Stringer who's come in, and I'm not going to be reminded of this. Every single podcast I basically admit it and admit that I was wrong, and they still have to come back and say this. Oldham were well inside the playoffs now. How's the humble pie taste, Luke? I think your 12th place prediction is way off, Chris in France. Well, thanks for tuning in again, Chris. We do appreciate it. I'm not justifying it again. I've done it on every single show that I do. And to be honest, I'm going to end up doing it. But the last couple of seasons, I've put you to finish probably where you are now, and you've not done it. So the one year that I've actually put you in a lower position, you've actually done better. So you should be thanking me, to be honest, overall. And like I've said, still a long way to go as well. And then we've also had someone else who's come in. Sorry, I can't really pronounce that name.
TJ1234. No Alex Reid on Saturday, Paul. Think you can still get a result. It's going to be interesting, to be honest. Alex Reid got on loan from Oldham till January at least. There's a fear that we might lose him because he's been playing well and he'll go somewhere else or go back to Oldham. But yeah, we don't have him because he's playing against his parent club. Be interested to see how we get on. We've not lost in 6. So we're on a good run in the league, that is. We're on a good run of form. We got a 3-3 draw with Altrincham the other night. I believe, again, I wasn't there, but I believe that they did maybe deserve more, and Altrincham possibly got a bit lucky in the Wheelstone goalkeeper, which is a real issue in terms of who we've got in the goals at the moment because of injuries. Made a couple of mistakes, the lad that's in the goals at the moment. So we've got to go there with confidence. We've got a good record there at Boundary Park, but it's going to be really tough, really tough. You know, not having our talisman up top against a team that are very, very good at home this season, which they weren't last year, and we took advantage of that. So, you know, I don't think Wheelstone will get much out of the game. They'll do well to get a draw, I think, and Oldham will go on and win that game, and rightly so they should, you know, in terms of their squad and how they're doing in the league.
I think Oldham fans probably see this as a bit of a banana skin. I think Wheelstone fans, and you may disagree with this, to be honest, but you look at yourselves at the moment and you look at Oldham and you think you've got a game in hand on sides around you. You probably say this is a bit of a free hit for you guys. There's no right for you to get a result out of this game whatsoever. But it does feel like with the amount of momentum that Wheelstone have got at the moment, that it is a bit of a banana skin for Oldham, and Wheelstone could potentially cause an upset, particularly if Oldham aren't on it, because 100% something I think we can both agree on is Wheelstone are going to be well up for this game to cause an upset, aren't they?
Oh, without a doubt. And I think what's good about Wheelstone recently, they're proving hard to beat. They drew 3-3 on Saturday on the midweek against Altrincham. You know, they've scored 3 goals. They have let 3 in, but they've not got beaten. And, you know, they've not lost in the last 6. So they've got to go there with a little bit of hope. Defensively, they'll be strong. It's just what we're able to produce going forward without Alex Reid. Sam Ashford, who plays alongside him, has been playing well. Callum Cisse, young lad in midfield, has really come into his own, got a couple of man of the match performances, and is catching the eye of other suitors within the National League and EFL. And players like him have to play really well. And we've got to take our chances, maybe ride our luck a little bit like we may have done in Boundary Park in the past, and possibly get a result. But it's going to be very, very tough. And I genuinely, as much as I hate to say, I can't see that happening this week. But you never know. Wealdstone will go there with a lot of confidence.
David, who's a Maidenhead fan, has said, Magpies fan here, definitely needing some Christmas cheer. We can't buy a win. Yeah, Maidenhead struggling at the moment. A lot of people, I think, have still got you to survive based on what you've achieved in previous years, where you've got that reputation of being able to pull it out of the bag and do better against the better sides. But this season, it doesn't feel like that's been the case. It's been hard for Maidenhead to get any momentum when you look at them at the moment. And I think you have to say, you look at the sides towards the bottom at the moment, and you'd have to say for Maidenhead, they're certainly struggling at the moment, and competing against some of those sides is going to be tough at the moment when you look at their current position and their form.
Oh, without doubt. And it's the problem Maidenhead have got, what they probably haven't done. Obviously, I haven't analysed it too much, but gut feel is that they're letting in an awful lot more goals this year. They're not just losing 1-1, drawing 1-1, winning 2-1. When you look at their recent results, they're letting 4, 5, and 6 goals in, and that's going to hurt you, because offensively they're never going to be the best, because just the nature of the team they have, the budgets and everything else. So, they're always sort of almost built on strong foundations at the back, and that grit and determination not to lose games. But they seem to be getting beat fairly easy at the moment, and they lost to Slough on Saturday in the FA Trophy, which was a local derby for them, and they're not going to be happy with that. So a little bit like Yeovil losing to their rivals Weymouth in the trophy. Will there be a reaction? But it's a difficult one for Maidenhead, because they've got to play Solihull, who are going to be expected to win.
Just another person who apparently are paid to compliment the channel. We've had, I think, Jamie, who's come in, said the best National League podcast. Who do Luke and Paul think will win the National League title? Because you've complimented the channel, we'll actually we'll kind of say who we kind of think will win the title. Just think last time I asked you, which was a few weeks ago. Well, every week. I'm sticking with York, me personally. I think Oldham will come second, though. What about you, Paul? Sticking with York?
Yeah, I think it'll be York. I think Barnet, Dean Brennan's got Manager of the Month this month. Haven't lost in the last 5. There's a strong argument for them as well, but I do think York will win it. I think they're just maybe a slightly better team, but maybe have a better squad. But then you get Forest Green, which is they would expect to go up. No, I'm going to stick with York. I think the form they're showing is, although not so good this last 5 games, but they're showing some really, really good performances, and they're well organised now under Matt Ugler, and I think they'll go on and win the league. But it's going to go right to the wire. I think there's a gut feel there that those top 4 or 5 are going to be the ones that challenge each other from Rochdale down. I think you're looking at playoffs then.
Paul's coming, who's a Southend fan.
He says, "Evening, guys. Greetings from Hiya, Paul. Yeah, Paul lives in Bratislava. I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say on the Shrimpers' season to date." We've touched on it, haven't we, Luke? I don't think they're going to be threatened with relegation. If they get this next striker in, show a little bit more form in getting wins rather than draws, then I think they're going to be pushing into that playoff place. But they're just behind. They're 2 points behind Eastleigh with a game more. There's almost that 13th, 14th places that cut off to teams going into the playoff. But they're a big enough club. They've got enough experience to put a string of results together and push on.
Yeah, it's going to be a bit of an uphill battle for me. No matter how many players they bring in, there's quite a bit of a gap, isn't there, between them and the playoffs. But it's not out of the question. I thought when I saw you at the Shea, I think I definitely have you as one of the top 7 sides that I've seen at the Shea this season. It's just doing that on a consistent basis, and it is still a pretty small squad, isn't it? So I think maybe with a few more additions, you can make a bit of a case to get inside the playoffs this season. But for me, I just think it's going to be a bit of too much of an ask for Southend. I think probably the following season is when we're going to see, what they can actually do and maybe see what we've seen with the likes of Oldham and your Southends this season. And then we've also had Jacob, who's come in and said, when Hartlepool came to York, they were so defensively poor, I don't think they will get playoffs, especially how many mistakes their keeper has made so far. Yeah, I think overall you look at Hartlepool and they've been pretty good defensively. I know that game was 5-3, and I think it's hard to judge a team based off of one game, isn't it? Overall, when you're not watching them every single week, that's just what I'd say on it, because I look at Hartlepool as a side that I think are pretty good defensively, but I think also a lot better going forward. And I think now under Lenny Lawrence, I think, like I said, I'm pretty confident that they can fire further up the league as well. And then we've had. Do you want to give this a go, Pranat? I'm kind of putting you on the spot. Do you want to give this a go?
This is Michigan Carp. Hi guys, Robert here from Michigan, USA. Good to see you back. Watch Wealdstone versus Alty. Thought Stones looked better than their position. I'm an Oldham fan, so expect tough games Saturday. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't there. I was otherwise engaged on Tuesday night, so I couldn't go to the game. But speaking to the Stones cast crew that talk regularly on a WhatsApp was suggesting that Wealdstone, it was matched in the first half, but probably deserved in the second. And a lot has been said around they're probably in a false position the way they're playing at the moment, and that has been more apparent in the last 5 or 6 games than maybe the early part of the season. Robert, is Wilson were really pretty desperate at times, but turned the corner. I think the manager now knows his best 11. They're more settled. 2 or 3 of them are coming into a bit of form because they've played a run of games. The likes of Alex Reid, Callum Cisse, Giorgio on the left. So, yeah, it'll be a tough game on Saturday for Oldham. Stones will give them a good game. We're never really disgracing the National League, on a regular basis, really. So I think we'll be okay. I wouldn't have said that a few weeks ago, but I think we'll be okay and we'll be staying in the National League. But who knows? So hopefully we'll have a good Christmas and we'll see what goes on from there.
I'm in an awkward situation at the moment. My charger, I think, is just broken for my MacBook. So I've got my foot, but it's kind of working. I'm on 10%. So I've got my foot on the charger to keep it plugged in. So
get those predictions in, Luke.
Yeah, get it done. But I'm joking, but we should be fine. But if I look like I'm sat in a bit of an awkward position, it's not because I'm being weird or anything. It's because I've literally got my foot on the charger. But yeah, we'll move on to the next comment anyway. One of Oldham and Rochdale games in hand are against each other. And yeah, of course, that game was postponed as well.
Good shout, yeah.
Colin said top 3 plus Oldham will be in the title race then. But considering yourselves, I know most fans, when you're in that kind of position and you're around there, you kind of back your own club. I know if Halifax were there, I'd kind of be confident we could get inside, be considered being in that title race, when you look at where Gateshead are at the moment. But I think from an outside perspective, I'm looking in that, I don't think they're in the title race. I don't think they've got the same kind of qualities as what some of the sides around them have got. But like I said, if I was a Gateshead fan, I'd be saying that why you're not considering us in the title race. And then we've had Aaron, who's come and said it's good to see Halifax still near a playoff spot, and it is good to also see Wealdstone out of the relegation zone. Yeah, you say that about Halifax. We've kind of fallen off a little bit in the last couple of weeks, though. Kind of missed an opportunity, to be honest. We had a few games in hand to get inside the playoffs, and we kind of blew it, to be honest. Chris has come in and said, it's just banter, Luke, nothing personal. We don't want Reid back. Melon, like his social media posts. Great stuff. Cheers for that, Chris. Yeah, I take it as banter, to be honest. I'm not too bothered. And then we've had Colin who's going, the top 3 as it stands, and Oldham will finish all finish in the top 4. The other 3 playoff positions could be anyone from 7 or 8 teams. I'm a Gateshead fan and don't fancy our chances. Players will. Players will leave in January, meant. And then the Blue Room, of course, helped me out with the Justin Rees trailer that we did and the interview overall. So I do appreciate that. He said, "Evening, lads. Hope you are all well." And then a Dorking fan. They're back inside the playoffs. So I still keep an eye on them in the National League South. Up the Dorking. Be good to have you back soon. And then Michigan, I think it is. Don't think York are strong enough, and manager is prone to tactical errors. That's a big call as well. And Jacobs obviously alluded to that, Paul.
Yeah, that's a big shout saying Hinch making tactical errors. He's the reason we stayed up last season, the reason we're going up this season. I think Adam Hinchelwood would have learned a lesson around the Altrincham performance and the team he picked. I don't think he'll end up doing that again. And, if he does learn from that, then I think York will be very, very strong going into the rest of the season and are going to be the team to beat.
We'll move on to the next comment then. I think Forest Green should be favourites to win it, as they have a stupid amount of home games coming up, and the teams around them, like Oldham and Barnet, still need to strengthen in Jan after loan expires. Yeah, the thing that you need to consider about Forest Green, though, is they've got a particularly small squad, and we're coming into the months now, aren't we, where we see a lot of injuries happen. So it'll be interesting to see how Forest Green cope with 1 or 2 injuries to players. And then Christopher's come in and said, "Paul, what are your thoughts on Wealdstone's defeat in the FA Cup? Were you there? You were there, weren't you, Paul?"
No, I wasn't. Oh, FA Cup, yes, Wickham. Sorry, yes, I was. Yeah. Listen, Wealdstone put up a really good performance. They missed a glaring chance. Alex Reid actually missed an absolute sitter of a chance to go 1 up, and 3 minutes later, their lad has put the ball in the top corner of a free kick that I guess if he did it another 99 times, probably wouldn't have done it. So it was always going to be a bit of an uphill battle once we were 1-0 down. But we put on a really good show and took till the 83rd minute or something for them to score the second off of Richard Coney, who's probably been their best player this season. So, a tough gig. Wickham are flying high at Division 1. It was the hardest game we probably could have drawn, and we did okay, and we put a good performance on for the cameras and ITV. So, yeah, shame to be out, but onwards and upwards, we can concentrate on the league, as they say, when you go out of the cup.
I want to speak a bit about Ebbsfleet. Of course, 2 managers have been sacked now for them. They'll be looking to appoint the 3rd, or they might keep the current temporary manager who's obviously in place. He's also a player as well for them at the moment. I'm just looking at them at the moment. Of course, 11 points adrift of safety. They'll be paying off the contracts, won't they, as well, of Searle, Watling, and also I think Trieb as well. They'll be still paying off all 3 of those. So that's a lot of money to still then have to appoint a manager. And you have to say, you look at Ebbsfleet at the moment, and it's not the most attractive kind of role, is it? When you look at the current position, it's a massive uphill battle for any manager to be able to keep them up this season. Be interesting to see how much they could actually back a manager in the transfer window as well, considering that they've already spent quite a lot of money. Of course, Josh Wright's the current manager going forward. When you're looking at Ebbsfleet, firstly on Watling, do you have a bit of sympathy for him? Because for me personally, I certainly do. I think he was the wrong manager at that time. Of course, only 35 years of age, lacks experience. I think in hindsight now, Ebbsfleet will probably look back and think it wasn't the right move at that time, particularly because obviously he's so inexperienced with this division and in management football overall.
Yeah, it's a hard one, Luke, isn't it? Because if he had gone on a run of 4 or 5 or 6 games, got them up, out, towards the top of the bottom 4 or out of the relegation zone, then we'd have been turning around and saying, what an absolute masterstroke. But it did seem an odd one at the time, because teams like that, whoever it is, who are towards the bottom of the league or bottom of the league, always try and go and rely on a little bit of experience, a little bit of know-how. And certainly that's not something Harry Watling was at this level. Not to say he's not a good football coach. I mean, he did bring in David Kerslake as his assistant, who stayed as the assistant. So that's an interesting move, because they've let the manager go, but they've kept the assistant manager to work alongside Josh Wright. So there must have been something not quite right with Harry Watling. It may be that Harry Watling's just turned around and decided it's probably not for him. You just don't know the conversations that have gone on. And, is the job a bit too big for him at this stage? So it's not good for any club to be onto their third manager of the season with one win all season. They're still only on 9 points. They look absolutely doomed. So to be honest with you, I don't think it really matters who they got in at this stage. They're probably going to go down. It's just, do they go down with a little bit of pride and a little bit of fight in hope that they can sort of go into next season with a bit of confidence?
How I see it for Ebbsfleet, they've got probably two options. They can keep Josh Wright as the manager at the moment whilst he's playing and kind of ride out this season, maybe go down with a bit of a fight and just accept that you're probably going to go down now. Or they can look to appoint a long-term manager who I think something Ebbsfleet can't do is afford to sack another manager now. So whoever they appoint now, they can't sack him because it's not financially sustainable. You look at the amount of managers that they've gone through. I was pretty surprised to see that Harry Watling has been let go. I thought they'd have given him the season, and then next season given him the season in the National League South and allowed him to rebuild. But of course, that's not the case. I think Ebbsfleet's board is still set on being able to stay up this season. But I just think for any manager now, it's going to be a massive uphill battle. I think the only thing I will say is you look at some of the individuals, Purley and Cordner, Kellerman, Stewart, Harriet, Wesley Fonguk and Thomas as well. And you look at those players and you think they're players that you'd like to think are capable of playing at this level. Of course, when you see Ebbsfleet play, it does feel like a side that's out of the depth. The question is, who could they actually bring in? Because like I've alluded to, who would want to go to Ebbsfleet at the moment, and who could Ebbsfleet actually afford? I've seen online people have mentioned Neil Ardley. That, in my opinion, I find that quite amusing. Anyone that's considered, him to be appointed there, because I can't imagine them being able to firstly afford his wages, but also why on earth would Neil Ardley go there? I think he'd like to think that he's done enough in English football to maybe get a better job than going to a place like Ebbsfleet in the current position at the moment. Darren Sarll is another manager for me. I think probably more realistic than Neil Ardley, but still, I can't imagine Ebbsfleet being able to afford him either. Do you look at any of those two and think they're realistic? And if not, is there anyone else in mind for you? Because I just don't think that's realistic at all, those two managers.
No, I mean, did they go for someone like Harry Watling because of budget? Was he a more cost-effective choice? Neil Ardley certainly will come with a price tag because of the experience he's got at that level. Darren Sarll possibly not quite as, that might not be quite so important. I think the thing you got to consider, Luke, is people like Neil Ardley and Darren Sarll, whoever, if they're not in a job, they want to be in a job. So taking a job like Ebbsfleet is still going to be slightly more attractive than being unemployed. I would imagine, and that's only in personal opinion. I did see one or two Hartlepool fans saying that although he wasn't particularly liked at Hartlepool, Darren Sarll may be quite a good choice for Ebbsfleet because of the way he plays. I think you've got to go in there and sort out your defence and start tightening up and not letting goals in, and then try and then start to score goals. Because if you don't let a goal in, you're not going to lose the game. You're going to get a draw at least, right? So, they've got to start being meaner in defence. And once that happens, you then like to think, actually, the likes of Polian should then start doing a bit at the top end. But you look at them, they're minus 30. They're 13 goals worse off in goal difference to Boston and Maidenhead and 20 to Braintree. So I think the problem is they're shipping too many goals, and they're not at the moment scoring too many either, although they have scored the most in that bottom four. So it's a really, really difficult job. Yeah, it's easy for us to say in hindsight, was Watling the right man? Who knows? I don't know too much about him. But if you're talking about getting someone with experience, Josh Wright's got no managerial experience. He's played in the Football League for a number of years. He clearly is a good footballer at that level. He's going to have the confidence to do it. He's got David Kerslake as his assistant, who's got loads of managerial experience at EFL level. And so if they keep Josh Wright on, is he going to do it, like I said, and then maybe look to do it in the National League South, or is he only a short-term fix until the likes of Sale come in? But it's strange because I can't believe the Ebbsfleet board think they're going to do anything but go down. When you look at the issue, where what have they played? They played 21 games. You only get 46, so they've played nearly half their games already, and they've got 1 win. Now, if you equate that almost to the average, they're going to get 2 wins the whole season. That's not going to keep anybody up. So they're going to have to go on some absolutely stonking run of form to even claw to the 20th position. So how they ever thought that changing Watling would be a catalyst to that, there must be more to it than just the fact they're bottom of the league. There must be a disconnect, relationship problem, whatever it may be. And this is pure speculation, but it just seemed a really odd choice. Only came in September to then go and sack him to put in a player manager on the short-term basis.
Yeah, for me, for Watling, I don't think you can really judge him as a manager based on, his time at Ebbsfleet. It was short. They were all really struggling when he came in, and I feel for him because he didn't get a summer to bring in players. He was thrown in at the deep end, a young guy as well, only 35 years of age. It were going to be difficult for me overall, and I don't think you can really judge him as a manager. I think who have to take responsibility is Ebbsfleet's board. That clearly wasn't the right option in hindsight. Searle at the start of the season had a poor start. I was quite surprised in that, to be honest, the way Ebbsfleet started based on how well he'd done at the back end of last season. And for me now, like I've said, I just feel like there's not many managers out there who'd be willing to go to Ebbsfleet at the moment. And I understand what you're saying about the likes of Neil Ardley and Darren Sal would just want a job at the moment. But for me, I think they're too good of I think if they wanted a job, they could have one, to be honest, overall. With some of the jobs that have previously come up, but I genuinely feel they've probably been interviewed. So I can't imagine either of them going to Ebbsfleet. And for me, if I were Ebbsfleet now, if I were the owner, I'd have kept Watling to the end of the season and kind of accepted relegation and given him a season to bring in his own players in the National League South, because I think most people look at Ebbsfleet now as a side that are on their way down. And like you mentioned, 1 win in 21 games is very concerning. They haven't won away from home since February of last year. That's like 10 months ago. That's how concerning it is for Ebbsfleet at the moment. So, yeah, I don't think we really need to speak much more about Ebbsfleet. Of course, we'll be going on to predicting them against Barnet. Can the departure of Harry Watling give them a lift now, and maybe they can kind of cause an upset? I highly doubt it, to be honest, but we'll get on to the predictions anyway. I do apologise, but I wasn't able to put up the scores this week. I do believe I'm still ahead, fortunately for me. So we will have a look at predicting the games now, if it can come on my screen. There we go. Right, so we'll have a quick glance at the table. Of course, this is how it looks at the moment. York, Barnet, Forest Green, Gateshead sitting 4th. You've got Oldham, of course, 5th. Some may say in a 4th position. They win the games in hand. They can get up to 3rd at the moment. Rochdale and Sutton are sitting inside the playoffs at the moment. Sutton back in the playoffs now, I think for the first time since September. Altrincham, Solihull, Yeovil, Halifax and Hartlepool make up the top half. Looking towards the bottom half at the moment, you've got Eastleigh, Southend, Dagenham, Tamworth and Aldershot. And then probably in the relegation battle at the moment, you're looking at your Workings, your Files, your Wealdstones, who are just above the drop zone. And then currently in the bottom 4, you've got Braintree, Maidenhead, Boston and Ebbsfleet. Boston, are they a side for you? Who would you put them in the same bracket as Ebbsfleet, as they've got to just prepare for next season now? Or do you still feel there's an opportunity for them to survive this season?
No, I think they've got to cling on to a bit of hope. Ebbsfleet have got to cling on to hope that they're gonna get out of it. It's just the fact they're 6 points behind Boston with one win. I know Boston have only got 3, but there is now only 5 points between Boston and Wealdstone. So I think you've got to cling on to a little bit of hope. that you can sort of claw a bit of form back and see where they're going from there. It's likely they're going to go down, Luke, but I think as a club and as a team and a fan base, they've got to be positive in this sense and say, right, can we get above 2 or 3 teams and stay in it? So I've not seen them play this year. We've got them on New Year's Day actually down at the Vale for New Year's Day clash. So be interested to see how they fare down at the Vale. But again, they need just a couple more wins. They've got 1 win in 5 and 3 draws. So their form isn't horrific. It's just got to see whether they can do better around the teams around them. So they'll be well up for it on New Year's Day. I think that's a game they're going to pencil in as one they need to win. I think Wealdstone are going to be similar, thinking they've got to win that game as well. Over Christmas, Wealdstone have got both Maidenhead and Boston, Christmas, Boxing Day and New Year's Day. So favourable fixtures, both at the Vale, which may help the Stones. But saying that, if they lose to Maidenhead and Boston, that brings them closer together. So some big games coming up, at the bottom end of the table.
Mickey's come in and said, 5 points deduction, Luke, for being unable. Mickey, do you know what I'm doing? I've got my foot on a charger to keep it in place so we can keep the podcast going. So I totally agree with your point there. And then Chris has come in and said, should be biggest crowd of the season, Lee, and that's for the Boxing Day game. I know what York got a reduced allocation for that game, just 1,500 tickets, and I think even Oldham fans are a bit disappointed with that to make the attendance even bigger. I think that's certainly going to be one of the games when you look at all the National League fixtures that are coming up, one that stands out at the moment. But yeah, we'll get on to the predictions anyway. Hopefully I can do this quickly so I can rest my foot. First game then, AFC Fylde versus Eastleigh. Eastleigh were on horrendous form until, of course, they got the win in the first win in the league since I think September. As for Fylde, does feel like with them, they get a win, they then lose a couple of games, and then they get another win. They're just struggling to gain any momentum, which is not allowing them to pull away from the drop zone. For me, I've gone for a 2-2 draw. How do you see it going?
Just to let everyone know who's listening, my 10-year-old daughter Connie, who's a keen Wealdstone fan, she was actually at the game the other night when we drew 3-3 with Altrincham, and she said, "Dad, Wealdstone should have won." So she does watch the game, she does enjoy it, and she asked whether she could help with the predictions. So she's gone with most of them this week, and she's even written them down on a bit of paper here for me with the where each team is in the table, and she had a look at the bit of the form. So she's actually gone with Fylde 2, Eastleigh 2 as well, Luke. So she's gone for that scoring draw. I think that's a fair shout, to be honest, in terms of how the teams are doing. Eastleigh have got back into a bit of form, haven't they? So they're going to creep back up that table, and Fylde still need to just cling on to being just outside that top 4.
Getting another person to do your predictions for you, Paul, as you're struggling. Like Ebbsfleet, obviously going to different managers. It's like you with the prediction league.
Do you know what I did? I promise you, I didn't ask her. She came to me and said, "Dad, can I do your predictions for you tonight?" So I didn't want to say no, and she was very keen to do them. She sat here with me and went through it all. So it's a very high scoring games here, Luke. So it'll be interesting to see what actually happens.
Yeah, it certainly will do anyway. I think last time she actually did. I think she's done them once before for you.
Yeah,
and pretty well last time as well.
She does all right. She knows what she's talking about to a certain extent because she watches the National League with us. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they actually come off though, because some of them are quite ambitious.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see anyway. We'll move on to the next game then. Just as I'm doing that, 63 people watching at the moment, please remember to like and subscribe. Check out our sponsors. There's a link in the description. And if you want to become a channel member and support the channel further, it's just £2.99 a month. You get to use custom emojis in the live chat for your specific club, and also you'll get early access to certain interviews we do. We've just recently done an interview with Justin Rees, the owner of Southend, and if you were a channel member, I think you got 3 days early access for that as well. If you just want to watch without becoming a channel member, that is totally fine as well. We'll get on to the next prediction now. And also for those that might have just joined us later on, I need to add. The reason that I might be looking like I'm a bit odd at the moment is because I've got my foot on a charger to make sure that the stream doesn't die, because I think the charger's broken. We'll move on to the next game now and hopefully get this done very quickly, because it stopped charging once again and I'm on 4%. Right, okay. So we need to move back really quickly. Aldershot v Halifax. I've gone for 1-0 to Halifax. I've spoke quite a lot about Aldershot tonight. Halifax not in the greatest of form at the moment, out of the FA Trophy, drew in midweek, quite low attendances as well. I'm pretty optimistic that Aldershot struggling at the moment, not had the best home record so far this season. It would certainly be low scoring, both sides struggling for goals at the moment. I'm going to go 1-0. What about you?
In Connie's world, it's not going to be low scoring. She's gone with 3-3.
Fair enough then. Altrincham versus Sutton. This is a big game, 7th v 8th. Sutton have had 4 clean sheets in a row. Altrincham doing pretty well. They've surprised me quite a lot this season. I didn't expect them to do as well. I thought they'd be doing similar to the likes of Aldershot at the moment, so I'm pretty impressed with them. But I think Sutton will win this game 1-0. How do you see it going?
Seriously, Altrincham 1, Sutton 3. I think a big game, isn't it? 7 versus 8. So whoever wins this is just going to pull away from each other. So I think the form is pretty decent for both. Sutton slightly more in form. So 3-1 to Sutton United.
Moving on to the next game, I think my charger's packed in, to be honest, and some light came out of it, so I don't really want to touch it either now. But Barnet versus Ebbsfleet. Will Ebbsfleet get a boost after letting Watling go? That's the question for me personally. No, I think Barnet will have too much. I'm not going to go for a huge win for Barnet. I'm going to go for a 3-1 victory. How do you see it going?
3-0 to Barnet. Listen, manager of the month, unbeaten against a team that can't buy a win. Yeah, Barnet 3, Ebbsfleet 0.
Right. Also, I do appreciate everyone who's putting their predictions in as well. I've literally not got time to look at them, to be honest. Without being rude, it's because this is going to die, so I need to stop talking. What were the next game? Then I've forgotten that we had. I've got the predictions out here. Dagenham versus Rochdale. I went for 3-2 to Dagenham. What did you go for?
It's Dagenham 0, Rochdale 3.
Right. Next game then, Gateshead versus Woking. I've gone for 2-0 Gateshead. Woking, of course, under a lot of at the moment.
Yeah, 4-1 to Woking. 4-1 to Gateshead.
Fair enough then. And then Maidenhead v Solihull. I've gone 2-0 to Solihull Moors.
3-1 Solihull.
Oldham v Wealdstone. We've spoken about being a bit of a potential banana skin. I am still backing Oldham to win. I don't think it'll be easy though. I'm actually going to back you to score first, but I think Oldham will come back and win 2-1.
Yeah, Connie's gone with 2-1 as well.
Fair enough, then we've agreed. Southend v Hartlepool. If you actually look at recent history, a lot of low-scoring games, a lot of nil-nils in the last 2 times the sides have played against each other. I'm going to go for another 0-0. What about you?
So, yeah, Connie's turned the form book upside down. Shots Halifax, which could be low-scoring. She went 3-0, and she's gone 3-0 for this one as well.
Fair enough. Then next game, Tamworth versus York. I could see this being a bit of a banana skin for York. Tamworth, very strong at home, only 2 defeats at home all season. York are going to drop points at some point, and I think they will today, on Saturday, so I'm going for a 1-1 draw. What about you?
Tamworth 0, York 3.
Yeovil v Braintree. I'm backing Yeovil to win this game 1-0 on home soil.
Yeovil to win 3-2. They need to get a bit of a bounce back from some poor form recently.
Brilliant. And then final game, Forest Green versus Boston. I've gone 3-2 to Forest Green.
4-1. So another big score prediction from Connie there. But Forest Green 4, Boston 1. I think they're going to be too strong for Boston.
Brilliant. And that wraps up the predictions. We're not usually that quick, by the way, if you are a new listener. We usually spend quite a lot of detail, half an hour talking about those fixtures. But like I said, my MacBook is going to die any minute now. Paul, once again, thanks for joining me tonight. I do appreciate it.
No problem. No problem. You go and sort your get on Amazon and buy a new laptop charger.
Yeah, I'm going to have to be honest. And also, thank you to everyone that's tuned in tonight. We do really appreciate it as usual. I'm going to have to sort this out now. So, like I said, I do appreciate everyone that's tuned in tonight. Please check out our sponsors. There's a link in the description. And also, please remember to like and subscribe. And we'll see you next time. Bye for now.